For today's cup of coffee, we have a very interesting topic. We alluded to this a little bit in the cup prior to.
In the last cup.
Yes, it's prior to this one.
Uh-huh.
Kid is in like total complete Aries mode, and I want to beat him about the face and neck.
Because she wanted the shot off center, and that doesn't make sense. That doesn't scratch my brain itch.
Makes sense to me. I sound a little peculiar right now because I had a severe allergy attack a little while ago. Mm-hmm. Because every season brings new allergens. And it is now in the season of autumn. We've had rain, fallen leaves. That means mold.
Yeah.
And that's one of my worst ones. So, yeah, I took allergy medicines, but yeah, I sound a little off. I sound a little off to me. Anyhow.
She had the music blaring, so I didn't hear her at all.
It was a bad attack. Anyhow, we're going to be talking about the freak shows, and that primarily occurred in the Victorian era. That was its heyday, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I have several references that I will put in the description box. And there's one that is on a website called History Extra, and it's written by a gentleman named John Woolf, and he is a historian, and he's an expert in 19th century freak shows.
Okay.
And he has written a book, and I do want to purchase that, not only to support him, but to see what he has to say.
Right.
And the article that was from History Extra is The Greatest Show on Earth, The Myths of the Victorian Freak Show. I'm not going to read the whole article because it's kind of lengthy, but I encourage everybody to go on there. It's very well written. He's not, God love him, he's a better writer than Brent Swanser.
So he doesn't like flour it a lot. He doesn't put filler in.
No, but it's very well written to where it's not just totally dry. It's not just academic.
Okay.
So it's not like reading a research paper, which I have a tendency to sit down and read those. So,
dear God.
Hey, I've learned to write everything like an incident report. All right, okay.
Not everything is supposed to be incident
No,
report.
it's not. No, it's not. Anyhow, in many ways, the freak show was an explicitly Victorian institution, and that thrived
institution. They sound like they were in like a mental facility.
Well, sort of, kind of. It was Victorian England. So that thrived from the 1840s until 1914, and some of this started on March the 23rd, 1844. And this was when a 6-year-old dwarf marched into Buckingham Palace. His name was Charles Stratton.
A 6-year-old dwarf?
Also known as General Tom Thumb. And he was 25 inches tall.
Oh my God.
He was dressed in a court suit, a cocked hat, which framed his blonde hair and his rosy cheeks. And remember, he was 6 years old. Towering above him at 6'2" was the greatest showman, P.T. Barnum.
That's really cool.
And it says the pair had an audience with Queen Victoria and her royal guest, and they were absolutely spellbound because Tom Thumb performed skits, tricks, and impersonations for more than an hour. So he was a very skilled showman, even at 6 years old.
Yeah.
And Victoria, it says, was in hysterics when Tom withdrew a small ceremonial sword and started battling her Cocker Spaniel. And later that day, the Queen wrote in her diary that Tom was the greatest curiosity I, or indeed anybody, ever saw. And says, without realizing, Victoria had given the freak show her royal seal of approval. And it says an entertainment revolution was about to occur. And in many ways, the freak show was an explicitly Victorian institution. Mm. And again, it thrived from the 1840s until 1914. And at the time, Victorians were obsessed not only with, the differences in people, they were taxonomy, taxidermy and stuff like that. That was huge back then.
Yeah.
And classification, putting things in different, this goes into this category and that goes into the other category. So-called freaks disrupted these boundaries. You had such things as, they called them at the time, hermaphrodites, which were both male and female. You had conjoined twins, which at the time they were known as Siamese twins. And all those blurred the boundaries of the individual.
Huh, that's really cool.
Well, and this was shaking people's paradigm.
Yeah.
That's not always a bad thing.
No, people need to be their thoughts need to be provoked once in a while.
Absolutely. And it says the freak show was the archetypical expression of popular culture enjoyed by everyone from Queen Victoria to the common person. Some shows had private rooms for ladies only. Others were designed for the whole family. At that point, no, it was not male stripper. I watched Interview with Male Stripper there the other day on Soft White Underbelly. It was fascinating.
Okay.
Then there was the guy that was a gigolo. It's totally different than some of the other things.
Gigolo Insane Clown Posse?
No. This guy, and it was companion. It's not, it's not what people think of as a gigolo. If you want me to leave the links for those, I can do that too.
The Insane Clown Posse do a thing.
I don't listen to these people. Some people were even had a sliding scale on the admission price. So I think that was pretty smart marketing, actually.
Yeah,
because it's better to have one penny than no penny.
Right.
And it was billed not only as entertaining and educational, but it also offered the opportunity to learn about the mysteries of the body and the realities of people from foreign lands. And it was no surprise that men of medicine and science, along with, ethnologists, that's what that is. I'm like, what is that word? Anthropologists and others flocked to the shows. And the freak show was a central part of Victorian society, which connected with broader discourses concerning race, gender, sex, class, science, medicine, and disability.
That is so cool.
Because we've got to realize, up until this point, a lot of these people, if there was any kind of physical difference,
they were shunned.
Absolutely. They hid these people away in a basement or an attic or
did horrific things
absolutely.
To them.
And this is, this was not new just to the Victorian era. It says that there are cave drawings from the Stone Age that documented, births that were, they claimed, monstrous. The ancient Egyptians, it says they turned dwarfs into both gods and jesters. You had, as far as Aristotle, Cicero, Pliny, and Augustine, all pondered bodily difference. This is common to humanity.
Right.
That when we see something that is out of the ordinary, it is a matter. Sure, because it's the brain trying to process what is going on.
Yeah, and if you're seeing it correctly or not.
Yes. And there are people that, if it is something that is outside of their understanding, if it produces fear, a lot of times fear manifests as anger.
Yeah.
So, and this has nothing to do with the end of it. Is sad, but it is humanity.
Yeah.
And if you teach people that have some kind of physical difference, this is what's going on. It may have something to do, it actually has little to do with the individual as a person, because if you are acting out towards somebody that you don't know, that has nothing to do with the recipient. It has everything to do with the person that can't control their emotions or their behaviors.
Right.
So it's clinical. Anyhow, it's like, damn, she actually is educated on this stuff. I've done this for a minute.
Yeah.
I've done it says in the 17th century, monster shows could be seen in fairs, marketplaces, coffee houses, and taverns across Europe. And I'm not saying that everybody that was doing the freak shows were doing it right, because were there people that were taken advantage of or abused? Well, hell yeah, that's all of it. It wasn't just them. Go back and look at the child labor during the Victorian times. Let's go read Oliver Twist again.
Oh, God.
But anyhow, some of the dwarfs were kept as quote-unquote pets inside the royal courts, which meant that they had food, clothing, and shelter, as opposed to some of these other people that were, just out here on the street.
Yeah.
And the Victorian freak show was rooted in the palaces of Europe. Charles I and his Queen Henrietta Maria, who would name a child Henrietta?
I don't know.
Had a collection of human curiosities, the most famous being Geoffrey Hudson. And Mr. Hudson was only 7 years old and
Jennifer
18
Hudson?
inches tall when he was presented to the Queen.
Just so cool.
He was served in a cold baked pie during a royal banquet in 1626. How cool is that? Mm-hmm. I mean, he was in a pie and then he, comes out. And it says Geoffrey became a valued companion and entertainer who, during the British Civil Wars, allegedly fought for the royalists while mounted on horseback.
Well, that is so cool.
Well, I'd say he had grown a little bit from his 18 inches tall at that point.
Yeah, I bet.
This was interesting. It said during the wars that he killed a member of the Queen's court in a duel. And it says the gentleman who was one Charles Crofts had mercilessly mocked Geoffrey until the latter could take it no longer.
Wow.
But the little guy won the duel.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But that resulted in him being banished.
Yeah.
And so he was subsequently captured by Barbary pirates.
Oh my God.
And he was enslaved for 25 years. Now, what are you going to do on a pirate ship?
I don't know.
I mean,
especially someone of that stature.
Right. And
you could crawl up and get the whatever the fuck.
I don't know.
The crow's nest.
He died an outcast at an unknown location in 1682. And it was talking about that even though the latter part of his life was tragic because of his choices, but his early years, he was saved from hardship.
Yeah.
He was a valued member of the court. He received salary, good clothes, and education. And so, he escaped the transitory and dangerous world of the traveling fairs during that time. Yeah.
Okay.
But that was also another part of the Victorian freak show, were these traveling fairs. And they had been around since the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
And it says Bartholomew Fair was the most notorious and was described by William Wordsworth as a parliament of monsters. And again, at the fairs, you could see hermaphrodites, dwarfs, giants, savages, cannibals, and all these were presented by these raucous showmen. And these became like the carnival barkers of today. They were loud. They were obnoxious, But now the barker is the one that he barks. He's the one that draws in the other ones. The term carny is usually for the people who put the things together and then take them down on a lot of it.
Okay.
They run some of the games, different things like that. So there's a slight difference in job titles there. And the decline of the courts, everything falls out of favor at some point because it was pop culture. Mm-hmm. There's always been pop culture.
Yeah.
And things come and go. And so a lot of these folks, after the royal courts, all this stuff was not as popular, they needed some place to go, so they went to some of these fairs. And because that these places were kind of rowdy and different things like that, the early freak shows carried a stigma. As far as like drunkenness and lasciviousness and all that type of thing.
Right.
And then you had, again, with Barnum, and he started out in 1835. And Barnum won over the middle class with his American Museum in New York. And from 1841, he transformed the museum into a respectable, family-friendly, that's important.
Very.
Yeah. A place of wonders.
Make it PG.
Yeah, you had to, because some of the other ones, and then there's still those that have the peep shows. That was one of the things. That's for another cup, is the peep shows.
Yeah, I guess so.
And so, from the 1870s, he popularized the Circus Sideshow, which featured, there's different categories. You've got born freaks, such as dwarfs, giants, skeleton men, and overweight ladies. Then we call the exotic freaks, such as cannibals, Zulus, savages, and then you've got self-made freaks, like the tattooed people and those performing novelty acts, such as the blockheads. Those are the ones that will take those huge nails, put it into their nose.
And then hammer it in.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I forgot that's what they were called.
That
but I didn't know tattoo people were considered freaks.
Oh yeah, that was before. Think about Enigma. That's one of the current Sideshow, or the current freaks.
Yeah.
That you've got Enigma, and I can't remember what the other one is. That he had like the lizard tattoos and the bifurcated tongue.
But I know of him.
I can't remember which one it was, but I actually ran into one of those guys in Abingdon one day.
Really?
It was amazing.
I bet it was. I would have been like, how did you do it? How do you have the confidence to do that?
What else would they do? They were in show business. They didn't have any, particular talent.
Yeah, I guess if you can get paid and just be yourself,
The Enigma, I do believe he's the one that has, it's like puzzle pieces tattooed. Yeah, I'll have to remember the other one's name.
Take a swig of your coffee, Mama. Because it's Cup of Coffee.
It is Cup of Coffee, and I really do drink the coffee.
Cup of Coffee freak show.
It is, always. And even the Siamese twins and stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lady obsessed with coffee.
There's lots of us.
The coffee drinker.
The Siamese twins, they performed acrobatics and somersaults. So that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Also, as far as for a nominal fee, which was a more thing, that the people could go and ask them questions. They could actually examine and touch the connecting ligament. And they could purchase an exhibition pamphlet which told about the twins' stories.
Okay.
So this was not just people gawking at them.
It's them learning, in a way.
Right. And the show was endorsed by members of the Royal College of Surgeons who were given a private performance and were drawn to the mysteries of the twins' physiology.
Okay.
In 7 months, 100,000 people came to see the Siamese twins in London.
That is so cool.
Isn't it though?
Like those, what was those girls that were conjoined twins? Basically, they shared one body, but it was two heads.
Right, and then they
were on TLC.
I know that one, and then I know that there were the individuals that were conjoined at the skull.
Yeah.
As different ones.
Yeah, which, oh God, that's difficult.
Well, and we think of it from our perspective of being stuck with somebody. They've never known anything else.
Right. But I'm sure it's difficult, like walking with another person attached to you.
Well, like I said, they've never known anything else. So to them, for us, it is abnormal. For them, it is normal. So anyhow, throughout her reign, Queen Victoria met and patronized freak performers. So, it wasn't just looking at them. She actually did for them financially and different things like that.
Yeah, which is good.
It is very good. And that included Anna Hanning Swan and Martin Van Buren Bates. And these were two giants who were married in the royal parish of St. Martin's in the Fields in 1871. And also the conjoined twins, Millie and Christine. And it says they were born into slavery, and apparently they got them out of slavery.
Okay. That's wonderful.
That's pretty cool. And, what happened that the freak show fell out of favor. And in the late 19th century, as science and medicine professionalized, freak performers increasingly went from the stages to the laboratories and the asylums. Now, asylum does not, that's the reason that they will include the title mental asylum a lot of times.
Right.
So asylum actually is a safe place.
Okay.
So basically they became lab experiments in some ways.
That's horrible.
Well, it is and it's not. I mean, as far as it was more observation of them, and it included doing, physical exams, but they weren't dissecting them while they were alive.
Okay, so it was just the people on the outside thinking
Right.
that they were dissecting them and stuff like that.
Well, no, I don't know that they thought of that. Anyhow, advances in science, this was an interesting, it says it pathologized differences, which meant that it made it be viewed as pathology. And it says subsequently rendering freaks as aberrations rather than wonders. That's a huge statement right there.
Yeah.
And it says the advent of social Darwinism turned freak performers into a national threat. And the rise of eugenics signaled a corresponding fear that the unfit would hold back the evolutionary advance. Darwinism has done damage on many, many levels.
Yeah.
And in the aftermath of World War I, after which disabilities were a lot more prevalent, yes, people came back with missing limbs and everything, it no longer seemed appealing to look at those with deformities. Now, there's a vast difference between someone being born different and someone, losing limbs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
there is a vast difference there.
And it says the entertainment tax of 1916, which was designed to raise money for the war effort, further harmed the freak show business. And adding to this, then you had like mass media. You had movies, radio, vaudeville, and national sports. And then by the 1940s, it says the freak show was a shell of its former self. Although that some of the freak performers moved on to, see that it's television screens. That was movie screens, and that was Todd Browning's 1932 film. One of our favorites. It's called Freaks.
Mm-hmm. It was a good movie.
It is a good movie, and that it did use a lot of these people.
Same for I don't remember the exact season it was, but I do know the name. It was called Freak Show.
Yes, that they had mentioned that in this. It was on AMC or something like that. Was that what it was?
But they used a lot of people that actually, did work in the sort of field, and
absolutely. And this
is amazing.
Sure. This is an interesting line here. Also, it says reality television often relies on the same dynamics as the freak shows, which includes titillation, voyeurism, and spectacle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It says that there was the question of exploitation, of course.
Yeah.
But there were also a lot of examples of empowerment.
I figured it would be more empowering, if anything.
Well, I think it depended on who was running the freak show. There were different ones. That many freak performers faced lives of destitution, dependency, or incarceration because of their bodies. But in the freak show, many became celebrated performers and active economic agents. And that was what I was alluding to yesterday.
It seemed like it was doing more good than harm.
Yeah. And it says Chang and Eng went on to become U.S. citizens, husbands, fathers, and slave-owning farmers. Stratton emerged, and that's the little guy that was Tom Thun, as one of the world's first international celebrities. He was a rich gentleman, a loving husband, and a renowned actor who met U.S. presidents and European monarchs.
Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That is so cool.
Isn't it, though? And within this same time frame, you had Joseph Merrick, and also known as the Elephant Man.
Yeah, which his story is tragic.
Well, from Wikipedia, and this is another book that I have to have. It's called The True History of the Elephant Man, and it's written by Michael Howell and Peter Ford. It was published in 1980. And apparently this one is the actual. It's not based on myth or anything like that.
Yeah.
The one that I was familiar with was the movie adaptation, which was by David Lynch. If I had known, I mean, David Lynch is just bizarre. We're talking Eraserhead. So why in the world, if I had known that, I would have known that was not an accurate representation.
Yeah.
And then before that, you had a play that was by Bernard Pomerantz. But actually, what happened with Joseph Carey Merrick, he was born in 1862. And within the first years of his life, it became apparent that he had suffered, and they're not sure whether it was Prometheus syndrome or what, that they thought he may have actually had a combination of different genetic.
I feel like it was a combination of different genetic, what's the word?
Abnormalities, yeah.
Abnormalities, that's what it is.
So he began to grow these huge tumors. And it was not just, that it was skin or even muscle. Those tumors were on his bones.
Yeah.
If nobody has ever seen the skeleton of this gentleman, I urge you to look that up. This, from Wikipedia, it didn't have pictures with this. But anyhow, the tumors also affected his speech. And after leaving home, Merrick was unable to make a living. And then at 17, he entered a workhouse. And it says after 4 years in the workhouse, Merrick contacted a showman who agreed to exhibit him as the Elephant Man. And while he was on display in a shop in London, he met a surgeon named Frederick Treves who invited Merrick to London Hospital to be examined. It says soon after his exhibition was shut down by the police. That's where you had the Karens at that point, that they were going to save this man from himself, because that it was a travesty that people would come and pay him to look at his deformity. How dare you, damn you, you go back in your closet.
No, damn them.
Well, I know that I'm being facetious.
I know you are. That's why I'm like, no, damn them.
Yes. These do-gooder busybodies and all that stuff. So he traveled to Belgium under a new manager after being robbed and abandoned. Over there in Belgium, he finally found his way back to London and into the care of the doctor who was Treves. And that was because bitches took away his money, his ability to, earn a living for himself.
Yep.
Where were they? After it's like, oh, you can't do this. Where were they? Like I said, did they take him to raise after that? Oh, hell no. No. Then they went on to help someone else. So he was allowed to live in the rooms at the London Hospital, and it says he became a celebrity in London's high society. And he stayed there at the hospital until he died in 1890. So,
well, at least he died in people's care.
It was a hell of a lot better than the movie. My God, yeah. I was young when I saw that. It traumatized me.
Because the movie, he died in this tragic way.
Right, he just
nobody cared.
He wanted to sleep like normal people, and he supposedly asphyxiated.
Yeah.
And it's like, apparently none of that shit happened.
No. Don't trust movies.
Don't trust David Lynch.
No, don't trust movies in general. Well, that's true.
Anyhow, and this last thing, this one has pictures. Now, I'm not going to show them during this, but somebody can go in and look at the link. And famous circus freaks from Sideshow history, and this is posted by Charlie Hintz, and a website that I'm looking forward to exploring further. It's called Cult of Weird.
Cult of Weird?
That sounds like our place.
Yeah. Can I go?
Sure, you can. Anybody's go to that website. Anyhow, one of them, it was Grady Stiles, the Lobster Boy.
Yeah.
Now, you may have to help me with some of these pronunciations.
I think his picture was in Ripley's Believe It or Not, or something like that.
Yeah. And Grady Stiles Jr. was fourth generation of Stiles family members born with ectrodactyl I think that's right. If it's
Sorry?
not, we're going to call it
Can
that.
you repeat that for me?
And what it means, it was a family trait where...
Ectrodactyl.
That's what I said. Dactyly is what it is.
Dactyly.
Their fingers and toes fuse into forming claws.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a thing where, by the way, the cat's rubbing his face on the thing.
I told you to put him out.
I know, but for the most part, he's actually been fine with it.
No.
With that thing, there's actually this deformity. This girl was nicknamed the mermaid.
Right, where their legs fused.
Mm-hmm. Her legs fused, and her feet look like little fins.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And
but
she was adorable, though.
Sure. I think that medical technology has gotten to where some of those kids that had mermaid syndrome and stuff like that, I think that they can prevent the legs from fusing. I don't know whether they can or not. There's some things
How do you prevent the legs from fusing?
I don't know.
Surgery?
Yes,
like
of course. Well, that's like them being able to separate the conjoined twins now, sometimes.
Well, if they're connected by the head or if they share a body, there's no way to...
You're getting all over the page. We talking about Grady Styles right now. Wait till this other stuff comes up. Anyhow.
Oh, forgive me
as
for
an
wanting
adult,
to speak.
As an adult, he and his 2 youngest children performed as the Lobster Family. However, Styles was an abusive alcoholic who beat his wife. So Lobster Boy was an asshole. And it says, on the eve of his oldest daughter's wedding in 1978, he shot and killed her husband-to-be, who was an 18-year-old kid that Grady disliked because that the kid had called him a freak. Well, hell, that was a job title.
Yeah.
So what was the problem?
Exactly.
Anyhow, of course, alcoholic, doesn't matter.
I hope she beat the shit out of him.
Grady confessed, saying that the kid had attacked him, but he was still convicted with third-degree murder. And the trial was quick and included witness testimony from a carnival fat lady and a bearded woman. Because no institution was equipped to deal with his condition, however, he was sentenced to house arrest and 15 years probation. And then in 1992, Stiles' wife, Mary, and her son, Harry Glenn Newman, who was a human blockhead, hired sideshow performer Christopher Wyant to kill Stiles for $1,500. That's a pretty low rate on that. That was in 92. Wyant shot the 55-year-old man multiple times in the back of the head while he was watching TV in his trailer. Stiles was so disliked that only 10 people came to his funeral. And it was noted that no one volunteered as a pallbearer. But his coffin was adorned by a bouquet of flowers with a banner that read, "From your loving wife."
Ooh.
It says records from his wife's prison incarceration notes that she had a tattoo on her ass that read,
"Oh my God,
Grady Stiles Jr." And anyhow, it says that Lobster Boy's son, Grady Stiles III, was also born with the ectrodactyly and works as a sideshow performer today. He and his sister Kathy made a television appearance 2014 on the AMC series Freak Show to talk about their father.
Yeah.
So he was an angry lobster.
Very much so.
Not one of the...
he was not part of the Amanda Show Dancing Lobsters.
He wasn't part of the Jordan Peterson lobster people either.
No.
Then again, we're talking about Tom Thumb, and you can go back and read on that again. There was four-legged lady Myrtle Corbin, and she was from Texas and was a dipygus. She was born with a severe congenital deformity of conjoined twinning, that caused her to have two separate pelvises.
Oh.
And a smaller set of inner legs that she was able to move.
Oh my God.
How cool is that?
That is so cool.
And it says when she was just a month old, her father began showing her to curious neighbors for a dime. Okay.
A dime.
Eventually,
That's it.
well, that was back in the day. I don't know. I didn't say
How much was a
years-
dime worth?
Well, more than it is today.
$10?
Eventually, she attracted the attention of P.T. Barnum and began performing for him when she was 13. And she later performed with the Ringling Brothers and a freak show at Coney Island. By the time she was 18, she had made enough money to retire.
That is so cool.
She went on to marry and have 5 children. It is said that 3 were born from one vagina and 2 from the other.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Okay, then we have Wang the Human Unicorn, and he never actually performed in the freak show. He was found in Manchuria, China, by an ambitious banker who snapped a picture of him in 1930, and a 13-inch horn growing from the back of his head.
Yeah, he's also one that's featured in Ripley's
Yes,
Believe It or Not.
yes.
He is one of the famous attractions still to this day, his wax figures.
The photo was sent to Robert Ripley, who offered money to exhibit Wang in his auditorium.
Yeah.
Wang, however, was never heard from again. And isn't that sad that I don't know if it was a matter of him being embarrassed or if somebody just hid him away or what?
Probably somebody
If
hid
you've
him
got
away.
If you've got a 13-inch horn on the back of your head, are you not going to try to make some money with that?
It depends if you're ashamed of it or not. If people have taught you to be ashamed of it.
Enough money can take away some shame.
I disagree.
Lionel the Lion-Faced Man. And this was Christian Ramos, who was born in Poland in 1891 and was covered in thick, long hair, mostly due to a rare condition called, this is your thing. You can pronounce it.
My thing? What?
Yes. Hypertrichosis.
Hypertrichosis, yeah.
And his mother believed his appearance was caused by the fact that she had witnessed his father get mauled by a lion while she was pregnant.
Oh, Jesus.
And she thought that he was an abomination. Can you imagine? If you've got a little furry baby, I don't care if it's a fur baby or what. It's a baby.
Yeah.
And
Milo,
she
you're a
gave
baby.
him up at the age 4 to a man named Siedelmeyer, who began exhibiting him around Europe. Now, it's not the fact that they were exhibiting him that is horrific. It's the fact that his mother gave him away at the age of 4.
That's what's horrific.
And it says Lionel
What kind of mother would do that?
came to the U.S. in 1901 and began appearing with Barnum and Bailey, and then at Coney Island when he moved to New York. He retired in the late 1920s and moved back to Germany, where he died of a heart attack in 1932. Then you have Isaac Sprague, the living skeleton.
Living skeleton.
And it says that he was born in 1841, and he had a completely normal childhood until he inexplicably began losing weight at the age of 12.
Oh, so he had that disorder where, like...
He became a circus freak in 1865, performing in the Sideshow as the living skeleton, or the original Thin Man. And P.T. Barnum hired him to perform at his American Museum. And then after the building burned down, Sprague toured the country. He died in Chicago of asphyxia in 1887, weighing only 43 pounds.
Oh my God! And how tall was he again?
It didn't say, but he was like I said, you'll have to go on the website and look at this, and it's just
pounds.
like
43 pounds.
I mean, it was just like skin over skeleton. That was it.
He would have done it. He would have made a wonderful Jack Skellington in a live
Yeah, really.
action movie.
Yeah. And then you had Ella Harper, the Camel Girl. And she was born in 1873 with a condition called congenital genu recurvatum, which caused her knees to bend backward.
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
I mean, I've just got a little, hyperextension of that.
Yeah.
She was featured in W.H. Harris's nickel plate Circus in 1886, but there's no references to her after. So we don't really know what happened to Miss
She
Ella.
just sort of disappeared, didn't she?
Right. And then we have about Chang and Ing again, the Siamese twins. What was interesting about this was that it says in 1829 they began touring the world as Curiosity with a man named Robert Hunter. And when their contract was up, they went into business for themselves. Eventually, they settled on a plantation in North Carolina where they married sisters, Adelaide and Sarah Ann Yates. Between them, they had 21 children.
What the fuck? Stop breeding.
Well, the thing is, when you really think about that you can get some interesting visuals on that. And then it said that Ing awoke one morning in 1874 to find that Chang had died. A doctor was quickly summoned to perform an emergency separation, but it was too late, and then Ing died 3 hours later. And it says a death cast of Chang and Ing, as well as their preserved liver, because it was not only the cartilage that conjoined them, but it was the livers also. So that was the reason. It wasn't just severing that artery-looking thing.
Yeah.
You can see that at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And then you have one of my favorites, and this is Schlitzie the Pinhead. And though he was billed as last of the Aztecs, Schlitzie was born most likely at the Bronx in 1901, and he was born with neurodevelopmental disorder called microcephaly. And that's micro is small and cephaly is brain.
Yeah.
So what this was, it was a pinhead. It was a small brain and skull and severe mental retardation.
Oh.
And Schlitzie performed in sideshow attractions with many circuses, and he began his film career with the Sideshow in 1928. Todd Browning's, or actually Sideshow in 1928, and then Todd Browning's 1932 classic Freaks. And both films were dramas set in circuses using actual freak show performers. And Schlitzie was just adorable.
Yeah.
I mean, they would dress him in little dresses and stuff, which I'm sure that made it easier on people that had, his caretakers that had to clean him and stuff.
Yeah.
It says his last major performance was in 1968. He died in 1971 at the age of 70. And I will tell you,
That's
with
good.
people,
He had a long,
absolutely, because
good life.
People with those types of challenges a lot of times do not have a long life unless they have been very well cared for.
Yeah, so he was definitely well cared for.
He was loved.
Seems like it.
And so it's a double-edged sword, and it's like anything else. You've got, if this is what you've been given in life, roll with it, make the best of it, make it work for you instead of against you.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their something.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Whether it's visible or invisible. But, God loved these people. And for people like us, that we adore meeting people that have differences.
Yeah, we love it.
And to find out somebody's story and their journey.
Because they're literally just people like us.
Well, sure.
Just a little different.
Sure.
But they're still people. So
sure.
Why not treat them normally? Why not treat them normally and ask them their story?
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the things that people are so afraid as far as to offend.
Which people need to get over, and I think they're getting over it.
My
already.
God. I mean, it's leaving everyone so isolated that
exhausting.
It's crazy. And it's like, if you go up in a respectful manner, say, oh, this is really interesting. And it was like the lady that day that you wanted to speak with her out the clinic, and she had, cystic fibrosis or something like that, or muscular dystrophy, one or the other. I think it was muscular dystrophy. And so you're sort of like, what do I say? And I'm like, what would you say if she did not have this condition? And so you thought about it for a moment. This has been quite a few years ago. And you said to her, you're like, I like your blouse. It looks very nice on you. And just that human interaction, I mean, that made her day. Mm-hmm. And somebody doesn't have to have a huge disability, deformity, or anything like that. Like I said, there's a lot of people walking around that are very deformed internally. And kindness and a smile and just human decency, acknowledging someone else's existence, can be a very healing thing.
Absolutely, it can be. People need human interaction.
Sure. Personally, if somebody calls me a freak, that's a badge of honor for me.
I'm like, and? You point?
Absolutely. It's like, you're one of those freaks. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing. I don't even have my black lipstick on today. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, I hope you all enjoyed the freaks. I'm sure that
I really enjoyed. I enjoyed. Learning about them more.
Well, go on those, especially that last one that has the different pictures, and learn about these people. There was one that was called the human caterpillar that they didn't include in this, and he was a torso. It was a head and a torso.
Yeah, but I immediately thought of, oh God, human centipede.
No, that was just nasty.
That was horrible.
But this gentleman had sired children, quite a few of them. Well, because
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it.
Not everything was missing, apparently.
I don't want to think about it.
He was able to light a cigarette himself. That was one of his things, that he would roll over and light a cigarette.
How the fuck does he do that?
You'll just have to. Nope. He was.
Did he put the lighter in his mouth?
He would lay the cigarette down. He would put the match in his mouth. It was, and he would strike the match. Then he would put that to the end of the cigarette. Then as far as he would shake his little head and put the match out, and then he would pick up the cigarette with his mouth and smoke.
Okay.
Because you make the best of what you got.
Yeah.
So, cool things to ponder.
Yeah.
Cooler things to research further.
I always liked the idea of freak shows anyway. I've loved
they're
the
coming
idea
back.
of that and oddities.
Well, a lot of the freak shows now
Bring
are
back
more
freak shows.
Sure, are more people with different tricks and different abilities, and it's not the ones that the born freaks. And I think it would be wonderful if you had people that it's like, hey, let's do this. Enough is sitting here in public housing or whatever because I can't. Let's go out there. Let's do this.
Yep.
And be proud of that. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. You can become like a pseudo-celebrity.
Oh, a big celebrity. Are you kidding? Those of us that are on the fringes of society, we would support you like you would never believe.
Oh, yeah, we would.
Yep. So, that's it for today's cup. It was a little lengthy, but it was worth it.
I liked it.
If you've had encounters with paranormal, supernatural, experiences with UFOs, aliens, cryptids, if you know interesting and unusual people in your life, be it some kind of a difference externally, internally, whatever.
Do you know anyone that has worked in a freak show?
Yeah, that would be
is
cool.
Working in a freak show? That would be awesome.
Yeah. If you've got local, regional family myths, legends, anything like that, just give us an email at cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com. And thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for pondering all these wonderful ponderables and sharing coffee with us. And you are loved and appreciated.
Absolutely. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe.
We'll see you on the next cup. Bye.
Bye.